In New York, you've got plenty of entertainment options. But tonight, there's only one place in the city to be as the Mets and Yankees get together. At Citi Field in New York, Pix 11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball. Tonight, the Mets play the New York Yankees. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Hyundai. Fall is your chance to get a touchdown dance-worthy deal on the 2016 Hyundai Elantra. By Verizon Fios. Now there's a totally new way to customize your TV only from Verizon Fios. By your Tri-State Ford dealers for great deals on cars, trucks, SUVs, and crossovers. Visit tristateford.com. By visitflorida.com. By Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. And by your local Chevy dealer. Visit ChevyOffers.com for a great selection of cars and trucks. Well, for the first time since April, the two warring sides of the New York baseball community have a chance to get together as the Mets and Yankees meet, this time at Citi Field. And that means split loyalties among families and even among close friends. And a pleasant good evening, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, Keith Hernandez with you tonight as the Mets open a three-game weekend series against the New York Yankees. You know, interleague play began in 1997. This is the latest in the season the Mets and Yankees have ever faced each other, and both teams have postseason on their minds. The Mets with an 8-game lead in the National League East. The Yankees 3.5 games behind Toronto in the American League East, and looking like they have a fallback as a wild card. But the cauldron of New York baseball will be at its apex tonight with these two teams meeting with postseason on the line, and you've got a lot of young players, especially on the Mets, who've never experienced that before.
Well, you know something, I think the baseball gods, when they drew up the schedule, didn't realize that the both teams would be playing the final part of this Subway Series, and both with really meaningful games to play. There's still plenty of time in this season that these teams these games are important. So it's all experience for the young Mets. The Yankees, of course, have been there before, but all the hoopla and the spotlight is minimized and diminished when the two teams get out there because of the significance of these remaining games.
Now, the Mets are a very different team than the last time they played the Yankees back in April. The Yankees, on the other hand, their lineup's a little odd tonight for Joe Girardi. Jacoby Ellsbury has been struggling. He's out. Brian McCann against the lefty. He's out. A-Rod can't play the field, so he's out. Mark Teixeira's out for the year. So it's a different kind of a Yankee lineup.
Well, it really is. When you think about the Yankee lineup all season long, they've scored almost 50% of their runs on the home run ball. And it's those players you mentioned that really have provided that. It really surprises me, to tell you the truth, that A-Rod at some point wasn't worked by Joe Girardi and his staff to make at least one start in this series, especially against the left-hander tonight.
And that left-hander is Steven Matz, just his 5th major league start. This is quite a cauldron for him to jump into.
Well, he's a New York kid. This is like the difference between appearing at the bottom line in open mic and then going to Carnegie Hall. I mean, he is jumping right into it, but you know what? He's going to have a big part to play. If the Mets make the postseason, why not start here?
And the Yankees have their best starter, Masahiro Tanaka, on the mound for them tonight.
You know, I just saw him pitch 4 days ago. He was outstanding. He's not the Tanaka that started at the beginning of last year that was overpowering. More sinkers, more sliders, more curveballs, and that great split finger.
And the first time this year that Tanaka, who's got the bad elbow, will be pitching on regular rest for a second straight start. We'll see how that affects him tonight. It's going to be a packed house tonight at Citi Field. The Mets and the Yankees renewing their rivalry. All the action coming your way tonight right here on Pix 11. $25 for $2.50 at McDonald's. Price and participation may vary. Get to Citi Field beginning this Monday to see the Mets push for the NL East pennant against the Atlanta Braves. To purchase tickets, go to Mets.com/tickets. Themes of the game brought to you by the 2016 Hyundai Elantra.
Oh, the keys of the game. Hometown hero Matzy gets the start. This will be his 4th start of the season. Last 2 starts, he's worked up on each one. Toast of the town, Cespedes. Well, I need to tell you nothing about him, what he's done for this ball club. And it's up to you. Mets lost the last 2 games. Magic number is number 9.
It's up to you. Steven Matz, 5th big league start, his biggest to date. His first pitch is coming right up. Mothballs. Let's go, Mets go. Heard for the first time since the 1980s. Is that special?
Keith and I get residuals for that, by the way.
I hope so.
That's right.
Steven Matz taking the mound on an unseasonably warm September night to take on the New York Yankees. And here's the lineup Mets will be facing tonight, brought to you by Land Rover Above and Beyond. Chris Young, the former Met, in the cleanup spot tonight for the Yankees. No Jacoby Ellsbury, no Brian McCann, no Alex Rodriguez, and of course Mark Teixeira is out for the year. So it is a really offbeat lineup that Joe Girardi is putting on the field against the left-hander Mets tonight.
I don't know if I want to talk about Matz's number or that his song is J.J. Cale's Call Me the Breeze. But anyways, after 4 starts, 3-0 with that low ERA. His last 2 starts, though, after coming back from injury, have not been great. This is a good time to turn it on.
And we'll take a look at your Metsy defense. A look at the defense is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. Curtis Granderson, does he seem like he's been in there every day? Well, he has. 130th start for Curtis. Iron Mike, David Wright, Flores at short, Lucas Duda at first, Murphy at second base, and Darno behind the plate.
Brett Gardner will lead things off for the Yankees. The night has already gotten off to a good start for the Mets because Christian Yelich just hit a 2-run homer in the top of the first off Max Scherzer, and the Marlins are out to a 2-0 lead on the Nats. The Mets' magic number is 9 at the beginning of the night after Miami beat Washington last night, and now the charge of lowering that number is in the hands of young Steven Matz, and those runs up on the board here at Citi Field.
Gardner does not bunt usually. Be interesting to see, though, against the tough left-hander, he might decide to.
Both corners in defensively.
Matz's first pitch of the night. It's a fastball in for a strike, and we're underway. 96 miles an hour to start off. Gardner, who's actually hit for a higher average against lefties this year than he has against righties. He's had a real good season. 16 home runs, but he's in a slump right now. 0 for his last 15. Takes below the knees, a ball and a strike.
Well, as you said, Gary, no A-Rod in the lineup, no spot for him to play in the field. This is a National League park. The DH is out.
Chase Headley on deck, then Carlos Beltran, and a fastball strike to Gardner, 1-2. Well, both Brett Gardner and Jacoby Ellsbury, normally the top two hitters in the Yankee batting order, have been struggling, and that has hurt the Yankee offensively. The Yankees have lost 6 of their last 9 games. 1-2 for Matz, and the curveball misses. 2-2. Steven Matz, just his 5th major league start. The last one came in Atlanta last Saturday. Went just 5 innings, allowed a run on 6 hits. He hasn't been particularly sharp in his 2 starts back from the disabled list, but the results have been fine.
To me, it's like he hasn't really let it go. He's been very careful. Not so far in his first at bat.
I felt in his first start back on in Miami that he was nervous and had a lot of angst and anxiety. The second start, he was a little bit better. He got angry on the mound. He doesn't like giving up hits.
3-2 to the leadoff hitter Gardner with Headley on deck. And it stays high for ball 4, and Gardner works on a leadoff walk. So the Yankees have a base runner to start the night.
So you want to be a big league pitcher, right? You get drafted by your hometown team, the team you loved as a kid, and now you got to face the Yankees in your 5th start.
It's probably something he's always dreamed of. Said he never came to a Mets-Yankees game in person, but he watched plenty of them on TV. Now he'll face Chase Headley, the switch-hitting third baseman, hitting .292 as a right-hand batter this year. And Matt's missing high and away, and that's been the pattern so far. Here you see his 4 starts, burst on the scene with that great game against the Reds here, where he also had the big offensive day. 6 scoreless innings in LA, and then went on the disabled list for 6 weeks.
Oh, it's really too bad that he got hurt in that second start in Los Angeles. 2 wonderful starts. Lord knows what he might have done in that from that point on.
Throw over by Matz. Gardner 19 steals, none against left-handed pitching.
Matz has given up just 3 steals over his first 4 starts.
Sometimes you can get rid of the butterflies by throwing the ball over the first. Just, to calm down a little bit.
And Headley helps him out by fouling away a high fastball. And what does that feel like the first time that you pitch in this kind of environment?
Sometimes you can't breathe. You try to spit, nothing comes out. You're just nervous, and sometimes just a couple of easy tosses to the first base can get you back into the ball game.
So Carlos Beltran waiting on deck. Headley flies one into right center, cutting across is Granderson to get there, and that's the first out of the night. So the former Yankee catches a fly ball, and the former Met will come to the plate. 38-year-old Beltran having a very nice season. That surprise you a little bit?
It does.
Would react so negatively to Carlos.
Carlos had some wonderful years here.
I think it's because of the uniform, that's all. Big night.
I think it's that. And I will opine for you, and some people might disagree, that Carlos Beltran is the greatest outfielder ever to play for the Mets. And I put him ahead of Darryl Strawberry just in terms of his overall game.
You have no argument with me.
He lines one to right, and that's going to fall in front of Granderson for a base hit. Read well by Gardner. He'll go first to third. And the Yankees have something brewing in the first inning. A soft single to right by Beltran. First and third and 1 out.
Well, a broken bat off the end of the bat. But it was up, and Carlos able to just kind of place it out there nicely in right field.
It's an easy read for Gardner, who runs the bases well.
What I was going to say to you guys, that despite all of Carlos's accomplishments as a Met, for a lot of people, a lot of Met fans, his Mets career is summed up by only one pitch. And it will always be that way.
The Wainwright pitch.
Right. Well, here's a former Met who got booed, and you can certainly understand why. Chris Young, at a rough time of his Met, he's done much better as a Yankee, and Steven Matz blows one by him, 0-1.
By the way, Wainwright, after that pitch, turned out to be pretty good. Yeah, really.
He's thrown a few more good curveballs in his career. Chris Young, now 32 years old, 14 home runs this year, getting the surprise start in the cleanup spot for the Yankees tonight, and he takes a high strike and moans a little to James Hoy about it, and it's 0-2. That's needing a strikeout. With Gardner at third, Beltran at first, and 1 out. Fly ball, center field. That'll get the run in. Gardner tagging. Cespedes under it. Gardner will trot in. The throw goes to second. Chris Young delivers a run with a sacrifice fly, and the Yankees take a 1-0 lead. So the leadoff walk comes back to hurt Steven Matz.
It's a tiny criticism, but in these kind of situations, pitchers have become so good at not walking people that they don't always recognize the situation when they're 0-2. That ball's got to be higher than that, like way out of the strike zone where you can't make contact.
Now the rookie first baseman Greg Bird, he takes a curveball for a strike. Bird has done okay against lefties in his brief big league career, so Girardi has him in there tonight for his power. 7 home runs through his first 101 big league at bats, and he takes it high 1-1.
6 for 20, which is 300. 2 home runs against the left-handers. Bird. There's Alex Rodriguez.
Reduced to pinch hitting duty for this series with no DH and a knee-high strike. 1-2.
I think the managers on both sides put more for Joe Girardi. He might have to do that in the 4th, 5th, 6th inning. You know, use one of his better hitters.
Well, both guys have plenty of bench players available.
Yeah, September rosters.
I think Matz is off to a much better start here, Ronnie. A little more in command of his fastball. As we noted, both you and I earlier, the first 2 starts coming off the DL. A little nervous, a little fired up.
And the curveball punched into left field, and Bird's got a base hit. So 2 hits in the inning. They've both been soft. Beltran broke his bat. Bird with a little flare to left, and the Yankees have 2 men on with 2 out.
It's just a little hanging curveball. We've seen so far from Matz. We've seen where d'Arnaud sets up, and he's not hitting the glove. And that's the reason you say to yourself, okay, easy base hits, but it's still not hitting the glove. That's why it's producing the hits.
I'd like to see him throw that curveball a little harder. Kind of slowed his motion down a little bit, and needs to get a little more, snap it off a little better.
So now John Ryan Murphy getting the start behind the plate tonight. Murphy's been hot, has his average up to 287 for the year. Back up to Brian McCann, who's having a nice power year, but is getting the night off. Joe Girardi said before the game he wasn't going to start McCann. 7 o'clock game tonight, 1 o'clock game tomorrow, and so figures sit him against the lefties, play Ryan tonight. So Murphy is in there, and McCann a spectator.
Just looks different, clean shaven, doesn't he?
He looks different with a hat on as opposed to the mask.
Big out for Matz to get already down in the game 1-0. And the way Tanaka has been pitching lately, you have to feel as though Matz just can't give up too much more. Didi Gregorius, the on-deck batter. Already 20 pitches deep in this opening inning. 1-1 to Murphy. And a fastball for a strike, 1-2. Beltran at second, Bird at first with 2 down. 1-2 from Matz to Murphy. And the curveball bounced to third. David Wright will go to first with it. And that retires the side. So the leadoff walk leads to a run for the Yankees. Mets will come to bat against Masahiro Tanaka, down 1-0. And September means large rosters. This is just the Yankee bullpen contingent walking out to the bullpen in right center.
Well, if the number of guys means anything, then the Mets lose. They have too many.
You notice, by the way, that Betances and Miller tower over everybody else, both literally and figuratively. Starting lineup brought to you by Land Rover Above and Beyond. Yoenis Cespedes goes in the 2-hole tonight. Lucas Duda moves up to 5. He's been struggling, but Terry Collins is going to put the burden on his back and move Conforto down to 7. Curtis Granderson leads off against his old unit. And the first pitch from Tanaka is taken outside for ball 1.
Tanaka's numbers, you can see this season, 12-6, looking for his 13th win. He has 13 last season, 25-11 in his career.
Fastball in for a strike.
It's been a different it's been a different Tanaka this year. Last year he came out, he blew everyone away. Now he's more sinkers, sliders, cutters, curveballs, and that split finger.
And of course that split, which is his difference maker. This is with a cutter, and it's 2-1 to Granderson. They've been very careful with Tanaka. He was limited to 20 starts as a rookie because he has a partially torn ligament in his elbow. They chose not to operate, to rehab it instead. It's pulled down to first, and Bird handles it, and Granderson retired 1 away.
And we'll take a quick look at the defense. Brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. Chris Young gets a lot of platooning. Brett Gardner in center, usually the left fielder. Mr. Beltran, you're all familiar with him. Gregorius they acquired in the offseason, and of course Headley at third base.
I knew it wouldn't take you long. Here's Yoenis Cespedes. Mets lost their last 2 against Miami, and not coincidentally, Cespedes had his first difficult stretch as a Met. Hitless in his last 9 at bats. And maybe not coincidentally, hitless since Tom Kohler drilled him in the side.
Well, not enough at bats yet. I like the way he's been taking a lot of first pitches, getting a good look. I love the way he takes them as if he's going to hit and swing at it.
Pops it up. Headley in foul territory. Looks like he'll have room. And that's the first out. So 2 out. James Hoy calling the balls and strikes tonight. John Hirschbeck, the crew chief, working at first base. Laz Diaz and John Tumpane round out the quartet. Full house at Citi Field.
Of course.
Now Daniel Murphy with 2 out and nobody on. Murphy just 1 hit in his last 12 at bats since that game-tying home run in Atlanta on Sunday.
That incredible game in Atlanta on that Sunday, Gary. Nice shot.
Murph lifts one to left. Chris Young is there, and Tanaka's got himself a 1-2-3 opening inning. He threw just 8 pitches. After 1, Yankees lead 1-0. More shows on more screens. Time Warner Cable. Enjoy better. A full Citi Field on a Friday night for the first of 3 between the Mets and Yankees. First time these two teams have ever met after the All-Star break. And the first time they've ever met when both teams were at least 15 games over 500.
Keith, remember when we used to play Friday night games sometimes at 8:05?
Yes, I remember that. Only in New York.
Didi Gregorius sitting 7th in the order. And he gets hit, or did his bat get hit? Probably hit the bat. A foul ball on its 0-2.
The knob of the bat, maybe?
Yep.
Oh, yes. So knobby. You got it. Right on the old knob.
Gregorius' year did not start well, but he has been terrific for the Yankees, both offensively and defensively, over the last couple of months. Last 52 games, he's hitting .320. And takes the curveball for strike 3 call. First strikeout of the night for Steven Matz.
Well, this one starts right at Gregorius, right at that elbow, and breaks over the middle of the plate. See, that middle finger is where that ball comes off, and that's how he starts that rotation. Better rotation on that one than the first inning.
So 1 out and nobody on. And now Matz will face the veteran Brendan Ryan. Ryan's had just 80 at bats with the Yankees, hitting .225. Stephen Drew has gotten the majority of the playing time at second base, despite also not hitting.
He's an all or nothing kind of year for Drew. It's what, 17 home runs, but hitting around 200.
The Yankees have some other younger options in their dugout at second base. Brett Snyder, Perella. But Joe Girardi has chosen to stick with the two veterans. Ryan in there mostly because of his glove. He's a whiz defensively. And the changeup misses from Matt's 2-1.
And Tanaka will get his strikeouts, but not like before. He's more pitches to contact, as you saw in the first inning.
That's just trying to settle in. Gets even on Ryan 2-2.
They're taking a lot of pitches. I mean, that's a 2-1 fastball right down the middle. Taking that pitch is Ryan.
Tanaka, who's had 14 career at bats, waiting on deck. 2-2 coming. And Ryan takes the fastball, and that just misses. 3-2.
It's almost like they got a plan. Work this young kid. He's coming off an injury. He's not going to have that many pitches to throw and get in the bullpen.
Yankees, as always, a very patient team. Ryan pops one foul. Yankees are third in the American League in walks, third in the American League in home runs, second in the American League in runs scored. And you think of them as a team built for Yankee Stadium, but they've played very well on the road this year. 6 games over 500. Again, the 3-2. Grounded toward the hole. Flores on the backhand and has no play. Ryan has an infield hit.
Well, tough. Flores has not got the arm to throw that deep in the hole.
Well, the Yankees have 3 hits in this game. Not a single one's been hit hard. Now Tanaka, who's never had a sacrifice bunt in his career, 0 for 5 this year, 1 for 14 in his first 2 big league seasons.
Tanaka was a Gold Glove winner numerous times in Japan. He was a tremendous athlete as a high schooler. They didn't know if he was going to be an everyday player or a pitcher. So, you know, this is a rare at bat, but it's not against the guy who doesn't have a plan.
He was in the Japanese big leagues at age 18, right out of high school.
Watch that back foot. He's in there nice with the little sidestep, step ball and chain.
Is he not? Aren't you out when you step out of the batter's box like that?
Well, no, 1 foot in, right? 1 foot in, you're fine.
That's a good question, Gary.
Right in front of the plate, Darno's throw is wide, and Flores stays on the bag. What a play by Wilmer Flores to get the out.
Well, you bet the Yankees are going to be looking at this one. That Yankee dugout. Nice play, Wilmer.
Darno properly aggressive, but didn't make a good throw, and Flores really bailed him out.
That's going to be an interesting play. I don't know. Did he stay on the bag?
Laz Diaz right on top of it, and he was on the bag.
Yeah,
He looks like it. Yes, sir.
Good call, Laz. Not going to be able to change it. I personally don't love this play with 1 out, because you have to be 95% sure you're going to make the play, and he did make the play, because you're in big trouble if you don't.
So that forces Tanaka to run the bases. Ryan forced at second. 2 out of the inning. That's saved by Flores. And now Brett Gardner will come to bat with 2 out and a runner at first. Gardner walked and scored the Yankee run in the first inning. Tanaka still doesn't have a sacrifice.
That wasn't that bad of a bunt. That was a really good play by Darno.
He didn't get enough on it. Laid it out in front. Darno made the right play. Aggressive.
Duda playing behind Tanaka at first. And Gardner pops one foul. Brett Gardner this year at age 32 made the All-Star game for the first time. And well deserving. He is an underrated player for a long time.
Mets playing him fairly straight up in the outfield, on the infield. He's a cut and slasher, as we like to say.
And Mets gets ahead of him 1-2. He looks like he's still trying to catch his breath.
Yeah, he's nervous. Definitely.
1-2 coming. Late swing foul.
That's the hardest thing to be thrown at Joe Espada and Mark Teixeira earlier this year.
1-2 to Gardner. Lines it into left center, a base hit. Tanaka on the move around second as Cespedes gets to it quickly, and Tanaka will hold right there. So Gardner on base for the second time. He snaps an 0 for 15 stretch with that base hit, and the inning continues. That's the hardest hit for the Yankees yet. Their fourth hit off Matz.
Ball's up in the strike zone, outer half. Nice hitting by Gardner, and Tanaka not aggressively trying to advance to third here. He's the starting pitcher, especially against Cespedes, though. Just can't take a chance on that arm. He wants you to go.
Well, it makes that force play at second on the bunt loom larger now. Here's Chase Headley taking a curveball for a strike. Headley fly to right his first time up.
To me, it looks, now I'm judging from the first two starts to this start, like he's aiming the ball, not letting it go.
That's hit in the air to left, hit pretty well. Conforto back though to the warning track to get it, and that retires the side. Headley just missed. Nats works out of trouble in the second. Middle of the second.
Fan guys from the Geico Sports Night commercials on SNY. True Mets fan, true Yankees fan, and fellas, I hear there's a little bit of a wager going on tonight.
Yeah, I made a bet with this guy. If the Mets win, he has to wear this jersey.
Whatever you say, bro, because when the Yanks win, you're wearing a real jersey.
It's the old captain for captain swap, guys. Gary, send it back up to you. Enjoy the night, fellas.
Not the only mismatched pair in the ballpark.
Who are those guys? I don't know. Art Fern? Karnak?
Well, one of those jerseys will lead off for the Mets at the bottom of the second. That would be the only captain remaining on these two clubs.
Well, that's one of the great things here about this series, to me, an outsider, right? Is that these families are divided
husbands and wives, brothers and sisters. It's just amazing to me.
It should be all friendly.
I don't think it's all friendly.
Sometimes it is.
Shouldn't cost.
It can get a little nasty.
Shouldn't cost a marriage.
Well, there was no split in the Wright household. They were all Met fans growing up in southeastern Virginia, with the Mets AAA team in town.
Tides fans, right?
He was a big Randy Milligan fan. Moose was David Wright's
David
guy.
was, okay.
Yeah. Really?
Takes the curveball for a strike from Tanaka. Well, David had a good series against the Marlins, 5 for 11 with 4 doubles. Started driving the ball to right center. Lucas Duda on deck, Travis d'Arnaud behind him. After Tanaka got the side in order in the first, and David grounds one right at Gregorius. And that's the first out of the second.
Have you noticed the difference between Tanaka and Matt so far? It's just been the level of the pitches. The pitches by Tanaka have been down around the knees for the most part. That's why he's getting the ball on the ground. Matt's ball just been up so far, and that comes from inexperience, nerves, being in your first game against the Yankees.
He's a very intense fellow on the mound. He gets upset. He's a perfectionist, and I like that because he's driven to be the best he can be.
See him shaking his head. What am I doing?
Well, there's Lucas Duda, whom the Mets need to get going. Lucas, in 8 games since coming off the disabled list, is just 3 for 25. Bud moved back up to the number 5 hole tonight to see if he can produce against Tanaka. And grounds one off his leg, and it's 0-2.
That was interesting. Before Headley went, he was in to protect against the bunt. Then he went out to the shortstop position. Before he did, he talked to Tanaka, reminded him he was going back. I like that as a pitcher, because if there's a pop-up down foul territory near Tim Tuffle, I'm the only one who can get there.
Right. Tanaka's thrown 9 straight strikes.
Made a mistake there. Lucas missed that pitch.
Tanaka came here last year to Citi Field in May and threw a complete game shutout. One of only 3 rookies ever to throw a complete game shutout in this ballpark. John Neese threw one, and of course Chris Heston for the Giants threw a no-hitter here earlier this year. Only 3 shutouts by rookies at Citi Field. This year, as we mentioned, they're going easier with Tanaka. They have been giving him extra rest whenever they can. This is the first time all year that he's going on regular rest in back-to-back starts. Did so against Toronto on Sunday and threw 7 scoreless innings.
That's driven deep to right field. Looking up Beltran. It's out of here. A big welcome back to the power bat of Lucas Duda. 66 at bats without a home run, and he breaks it emphatically with his 22nd of the year to tie the game.
Maybe it's something about the big game atmosphere. The last home run Duda hit was against the Nats in that Sunday night game back on August 2nd.
Well, it's all about this pitch too, Gary. That was the split finger after the fastball inside that didn't do anything. Stayed up, out over the outer half, and Lucas attacked. Just laid there right for him in his wheelhouse. Full extension, down. And when Lucas connects, there's not a park that can hold him.
And Terry Collins moved him back up to the power slot, hitting him number 5 tonight, and Duda comes through in his first at bat.
23 home runs given up by Tanaka in 143 plus innings. That's a lot.
Well, it's the first time the Mets have scored against Tanaka at Citi Field.
That's the split he was trying to throw to Lucas. There's the grip. And the one against Lucas just held. This one tumbled nicely. Oh, no. That's the one to do it. Sorry, I thought they were showing the one to d'Arnaud. That's the one that just stayed right in the middle of the plate.
One and two to Travis. He pops one foul. That'll make it into the seats.
Travis has a tendency of chasing the high fastball, as does Cespedes. When he's going good, he lays off that pitch, and they can get the ball down.
When you're facing a guy with a great split like Tanaka, can that be a double-edged sword?
Well, if you swing at the high one, Gary, then you're playing into his game, which it's easy up here for me to say that.
Tanaka off the mound and makes the play on d'Arnaud for the second half.
Gary, really the best way for a split finger to work is for a pitcher to be down on the bottom of the strike zone. They keep it around the knees because you want the ball to start at the knees and end up in the dirt. If you're up in the strike zone chasing the eye level, that does a little bit, but not as much as being consistently on the knees. And then when you drop that split, it starts in the knees, and that's where you think it's going to be, and it goes out of the strike zone.
It feels as though Tanaka's success last year has led to a bit of a reintroduction of the split-fingered fastball as a major league weapon. I wish Michael Conforto with 2 out.
I wish these guys that are running the game today were around when I played. I hated to hit that pitch.
Well, it does seem as though the pitch disappeared for a decade or so.
I've been talking to a lot of players about the pitch, pitchers that are using it now, and what they will do so they won't get in trouble is that they say it's a split finger change, not a split finger. That's why they can get away throwing it.
The Mets' first run of the game brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs up to Dunkin'. Long home run drought over for Lucas Duda. Mets tie the game 1-1 after 2. Subway Series games at Citi Field. We're expecting capacity crowds to take public transportation to the game. You know that. All gates will open 2 hours prior to scheduled first pitch.
Are you coming to the ballpark or staying home watching on TV?
I will be on my couch or in my car listening to Howie and John.
I'm with you.
Beltran takes ball 1.
I'll be doing the exact same thing.
Tomorrow there's a good chance I could be on a beach somewhere.
Oh, nice. Have Lynn take a photo and send it.
To you?
Certainly. Have her post it.
I was out your way the last couple of days, Chief. Now I know why you live there.
Beltran pops one a mile high. Cespedes comes in to call. 1 out.
Well, hey.
I presume it'll be you
Thank
tomorrow.
you so much. I'm watering the plants tomorrow. It was very hot. I thought I'd give him one more day. I kind of put my thumb in the dirt. It was still a little moist, so I'll give him another day.
You're like a green thumb.
Well, I got, I need to entertain myself.
Chris Young drove in the Yankee run with a sacrifice fly, and he takes a curveball for a strike.
So I just want you to know, Gary, that real quickly, briefly, Lynn did send me a photo of you two when you were young with your long hair on a sailboat. I believe it might have been with your father. And you had long hair and you had the European bikini briefs on.
It was the 70s, you know.
Let me tell you something. That was a little tough.
He should have cropped it for you. 1-2 to Young. Well, I did let drop the other day that I once had very long locks back when I had locks.
Yes.
And so there, at least Keith's seeing the evidence.
By the way, is everything we talk about now allowed on air? I mean, is that allowable?
It's all part of the entertainment of the entertaining the audience.
I think it's out of bounds, honestly.
2-2 to Young. We're in the 4th inning now in Washington. Marlins 2, Nationals 1. Another curveball, and Young lifts one to left. Good 4 eases and under for the second out. Seems to me, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, that Max is throwing his curveball a lot more tonight than he normally does.
Yes, he is. I think he's trying to get a feel for it. I would say right now that he's kind of rolling it up there for strikes. He needs to let it go, let it fly. If he bounces one, who cares? Let it go to the backstop.
I agree with you, Ronnie, because you're going to get hurt if you just throw me that get me over lazy bender.
Greg Bird dumped one of those curveballs into left field for a base hit his first time up.
It was like Syndergaard's last start. After the 12 days rest, threw hard, got his changeup was working, didn't have his curveball for the first 5 innings, but he threw it hard. And then in the 6th inning, he found it, and then it was just 6th and 7th inning was lights out.
I thought we saw more changeups in the first 2 starts from Matz than we've seen here. This kid's been pretty good for the Yankees, hasn't he, Greg Bird?
He's been their version of Michael Conforto.
Teixeira goes
up late in the year.
He hasn't been Kevin Moss, but he's been pretty good for Teixeira since he went out.
He's 22 years old. Got the Kevin Moss on him. Shane Spencer.
There you go. But didn't Kevin have 10 home runs and 100 at bats?
Benny Agbayani.
There you go.
Same deal. 1-2 coming. Rolled over. Foul.
That's one of our favorites. Tony Peña's got it.
Tony used to spit tobacco juice on my back foot when I got in the box, on my shoes. It used to drive me nuts.
That's probably why he did it.
He could throw, couldn't he?
Yes.
He'd throw from his knees, too.
Good guy. Could hit.
1-2 from Matz. Jammed.
How did that not hit him? That's that keep your hands inside the ball. Well, that's the only time it works, so you don't get hit on the hands.
Seventh pitch of the at-bat from Matz to Bird. And the curveball misses. 2-2.
Interesting. He's in between the throwing the big roller and throwing kind of the slur. It's like he hasn't found that spot to let it go.
Did he go? He did not. Full count to Bird.
It's just too bad his season was interrupted. He had a great year, extraordinary year in AAA.
Yanks one foul. But of course, the flip side to that is if he had pitched straight through the season, he might be running into the kind of innings limits that Harvey and Syndergaard are on. Now he can basically be run all the way through October.
I think you're absolutely right, but I would rather the version when he first came up and then make the decision later to give him some time off.
Bird looks one to center. Cespedes is over. And that retires the side. 3 fly ball outs for Steven Matz in his first 1-2-3 inning of the night. 1-1 in the third. Met the Yankees at Yankee Stadium for 3 games. The Yankees took 2 out of 3. Matt Harvey had the only win for the Mets in that series. The Yankee bullpen was front and center in the deciding game of that 3-game series, shutting the Mets down late and taking the finale. Now the Mets and Yanks 4 months later get together here in Queens.
Remember that game that Harvey pitched? That was the closest game to then of one of the Mets pitchers pitching a complete game. He went out for the 9th and was taken out.
Right. Matched up against Sabathia in that game, and they will meet again on Sunday night. Wilmer Flores leading off in the home third, and takes inside a ball and a strike. Well, Teixeira had the big first game, and Michael Pineda pitched wonderfully in that first game. Harvey outpitched Sabathia in the second one, and the Yankee bullpen was front and center in the nightcap after Nate Eovaldi got chased in the 5th. Losing Eovaldi, that's big for the Yankees, because he was really evolving.
He was evolving. Very good play on words. He was getting that split finger. Another guy that was developing that split finger. He was throwing at 90 plus and had a great record. Part of it because the Yankees were scoring so many runs, but still.
Well, when you can throw 100 miles an hour, that helps too.
Yes.
Flores pops one foul. Murphy should outrun. Well, that's the first out of the inning. Well, we're watching Masahiro Tanaka, who really has spearheaded the re-intervention into the game of the split-fingered fastball.
Well, you know, the split-fingered fastball for most guys with the seams is two-seamer, right? That's the sinker you throw. All you have to do is split your fingers there. And what I would do, if I could show you on the side, when I wanted to throw it for a strike, I threw it just like a fastball, my thumb right on the seam. I would split it right in the seam. When I wanted to make it move, I put the thumb up here. That would add all that weight to this side of the ball, so when it would tumble, guys like Keith Hernandez would be up. They would start to tumble and then move away from them, and they would swing aimlessly over the top of the ball and ground it out to second base. Go sit down.
I never figured that out. After all these years, I finally know how to attack it. It was a nasty pitch. You know, when Bruce Sutter first came, that's all Bruce threw, and so you knew it was coming. And then Roger Craig took it to the next level.
Yes, he did.
Where he started instructing Jack Morris and the Giant pitching staff to use it as part of their repertoire. So you had fastball, slider, splitter. It made it really tough.
First time in his career, Steven Matz has struck out. The first of the night for Masahiro Tanaka.
See, watch the grip. He's got it there. See that thumb right on the seam, like I said? And he's getting that right index finger over the other seam. That way he can really make it at the last second go down. The one thing he does, and it might be one of the issues he has with his elbow, see how he cocks that ball in his hand behind it? That's a hard thing to do because you got to come all the way out before you throw the ball to the plate. That's a real strain on your elbow and throwing arm.
It was Granderson who grounded out his first trip, and he takes the curveball down for ball one.
You know, Keith, you were talking about the split fastball. Fred Martin was the one that taught it to Bruce Sutter. He was a right-hander for the Cardinals. But you were saying about Roger Craig. What Roger Craig did is he took the split finger, which was a breaking ball, or more of a fork ball that was a breaking ball, and he moved it to the split finger, which was where guys were throwing 95 miles an hour plus, and they were throwing the split finger like Scott Garrelts for San Francisco Giants, 90 plus.
Mike Scott,
of course.
You know, Mike Scott always threw hard and had a mediocre breaking ball, Gary, and that was the reason why he had difficulty once he got the split finger. He never threw a slider. He was two-pitch pitcher, fastball upstairs, and he had great movement on his fastball and threw as hard as anybody. And then the splitter in the dirt. He was up and down the ladder pitcher.
One-two to Granderson. And that just misses. Is there any difference in the way Tanaka throws his splitter now to the way those guys in the 80s were throwing?
He threw it more like I threw it. He threw it more as a pitch to get left-handers out. Ball that goes straight down. The guys who threw it the hardest, like Jack Morris, like Scott Garrelts and others, they threw it above 90 miles an hour, so it became a strikeout pitch.
And he uses the splitter to strike out Granderson. 1-2-3 inning for Tanaka. After 3 at Citi Field, Mets and Yankees. Joy better. Steven Matz topped out at 97 in the first inning. And there's Tanaka with the splitter.
Well, everything by Tanaka comes from the same spot. That's why he can throw that cutter, slider, curveball, and split finger. Changes speeds almost on every pitch. Never two in a row.
John Ryan Murphy leads off against Matz in the 4th inning. Well, Matz threw 96, 97 the first 2 pitches he threw tonight. He has not really been in that territory since, as he throws the changeup and falls behind 2-0.
Like I said, it's almost like he's pitching careful, and maybe that's a sign of nerves too, is trying to be perfect. I've done it many times.
And now he falls behind Murphy 3-0. Gregorius on deck, and then Brendan Ryan.
Well, it's a big stage for young Steven Matz. And he's also the double whammy. He's trying to get it back in the groove at the same time, and this kind of gets in the way of it. Adds a little more extra baloney on the outside.
Yeah. And it's only natural this time of year. You start to go, okay, where's my position if we go? Where am I going to be? Am I going to get a start? You just start to, that's human nature.
Strikes out Murphy with a changeup. His 2nd strikeout. 1 out and nobody on. Let's check in with Steve Gelb. Steve.
Guys, here with the guy who knew Steven Matz when. Lou Petrucci, the head coach at Ward Melville High School. So Steven Matz is high school baseball coach. And Lou, looking back on those days, what was Steven like to coach? What was he like in high school?
Well, it was a dream kid to have because he was such a great competitor, Steve, and he always wanted to win everything, whether it was an infield contest we did or a pitching drill. Anything we did, an indoor batting drill, Steven wanted to win. And this is not a great surprise right here to us here at Ward Melville.
1 pitch at bat there as Didi Gregorius grounds out to 2 away. And you said it's not a surprise. Why isn't this a surprise? Why did you know that this was possible for this guy beyond just the work ethic?
Well, no matter what Steven did, he always put 100% into it. Whether it was his schoolwork, his friendships. Like he would pick up kids. We'd have 6 o'clock practices, and he would pick up the kids who had no rides. He would bring anybody who needed a ride. Steve would take care of them. If our manager, our director of baseball operations, didn't have a ride home, Steve pick him up in the car and bring him home. He's the nicest kid in the world, and to see him on this big stage pitching this great game, it's a great thing for all of baseball in the Three Village community.
How much of a great thing is it for your program, Ward Melville? How into it are the kids at Ward Melville when he pitches?
Well, the guys are crazy about it, and we have one time Steve comes down and helps out in the fall, and he says to me, he goes, Coach, why are there so many left-handed pitchers? I go, that's on you, buddy. We got about 15 left-handed pitchers show up every fall, and it's because they want to be the next Steven Matz, and you can't have a greater representative for Ward Melville baseball than him as a person. Forget about as a player. But as a person, you can't get a better kid.
Lou, we appreciate the time. I'm sure you're very proud. We'll let you keep watching here as he hopefully goes 1, 2, 3.
Steve, he's going to go 1, 2, 3, and his next at-bat's going to be a lot better than that one. And the Mets are winning this game. Even though I'm a Yankee fan, we got a great Sarah here, too, and great coaching here in the fall, in the summer. And we're so excited to be here and to see Steven here performing as a great player person that he is. Just really exciting.
All right,
thanks, Steve.
You got it. Enjoy the rest of the game. Garrett.
Steve, thank you.
He's a little pumped up, and he should be as Matz throws that changeup to get Brendan Ryan looking, and Matz starting to settle into a groove. His 3rd strikeout. Has retired 7 in a row.
Looks like a strike to me.
1-1 as we go to the bottom of the 4th. A dealer. 2 more games with the Yankees. We won't be available for those, but we'll be back with you on Monday when the Mets play the Braves. 3 games with Atlanta. Then the Mets go on their final road trip of the year to Cincinnati and Philadelphia. Well, the rest of this weekend, Fox has the coverage tomorrow afternoon, ESPN Sunday night. But for each game, the postgame show, the W.B. Mason postgame show, will be on SNY immediately following the game. So be sure to tune in there. As is the case tonight. W.B. Mason postgame live on SNY after the game. 1-1 game in the 4th. Yoenis Cespedes leads off against Masahiro Tanaka, who's thrown just 34 pitches over the first 3 innings. Cespedes fouled out his first time up. Cespedes now hitless in his last 10 at bats. I raised this. There's the canary, parakeet, whatever breed of bird we have on hand. By the way, Cespedes not wearing the sleeve tonight, and he grounds one to Gregorius, and that's the first out. I raised this the first time Cespedes came up, the fact that since Tom Kohler drilled him, he hasn't had a hit, and I'm wondering whether in an effort to get back at the Marlins, maybe he was overswinging a little bit.
I didn't see it, Gary. He's been so raging hot. And I've always said, you know, when you're red hot, don't waste those swings in the cage. You know, you only get so many base hits in a hot streak. He's been so raging hot. It's hard to maintain. I mean, it's just incredible what he's done.
Murphy grounds one down to Bird, and he makes the play himself. And quickly, Tanaka has 2 outs. So Tanaka making it look very easy on a minimum of pitches. Made the mistake to Duda, gave up the home run, but only 1 other ball's been hit out of the infield.
So Keith, you're saying the nature of the game is Cespedes is around a 300 hitter. If he hits for 600 for a couple of weeks, there's going to be some downtime at some point.
Well, it was more than a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
it was an incredibly long hot streak, and you know it just can't go forever. And we'll see. You know, he'll be playing the rest of the way. It's only been a couple games.
The jerseys and T-shirts are proliferating. I like the T-shirt with the sleeve. Did you see that one?
Yep.
Well, he has been phenomenal. The 2 months here, or actually we got 2 weeks left in the season. A month and a half here has just, I have not seen anything like it.
David Wright grounded to short his first time. Takes a slider out of the strike zone. David grounds one toward the hole. Gregorius can't get to it, and David Wright has a 2-out hit. So Wright finds the hole, and the Mets have just their 2nd hit of the night.
Well placed. Just out of the reach of Gregorius, and even if he gets there, he's going to have a hard time throwing David out.
Huge hit, though. You get on base for Duda, who hit a home run off Tanaka's last at bat.
And it was a monstrous home run that Duda hit to snap a 66 at bat home run drought. His last one came against Jordan Zimmerman in that Sunday night game, August 2nd.
Started Duda last at bat, both at bats. So last at bat with a little cutter away.
Well, that's what he did last time before popped Lucas inside, then threw the hanging split.
Duda's home run was his 22nd of the year. He had a stretch of 9 home runs in 8 games late July, early August. The Mets would love for him to get back on that kind of a stretch or something close to it.
He rips that one down the line. That's a base hit going to the corner. Right on his way to third. Beltran plays the carom. Wright will be held at third. Duda pulls in with his 2nd extra base hit of the night. A home run and now a double. And the Mets have 2nd and 3rd and 2 out.
Well, those are good signs. They need Lucas to get it going. Another splitter, Ronnie, and didn't split.
lucky he got this one back. The same pitch that he hit out of the ballpark before. This one just more of a line drive. Nice job by Beltran getting that ball in. You know, we were talking about Cespedes before. Cespedes was so hot. How about other hitters getting as hot? Nowhere for David to go. They played that perfectly. Beltran to Ryan.
30th double of the year for Duda. So 2 in scoring position for Travis d'Arnaud, who hit a comebacker his first time up. And d'Arnaud grounds one down to Headley. And he throws him out to end the inning. So the Mets get a couple of 2-out hits. Tanaka leaves them stranded. Still 1-1 after 4. The first inning lead after a leadoff walk by Steven Matz. A sacrifice fly brought in the run. Mets tied it with a second inning home run off the bat of Lucas Duda. Stalwarts from both parties are here.
Oh, wow. The hipster.
Masahiro Tanaka bunted into a fielder's choice his first time up. Backdoor curveball for a strike from Steven Matz. That's his pitch count a lot higher than he'd like. He's walked only 1, struck out 3, but has had a lot of long at bats.
Curveball, changeup. 2 pitches, first 2 pitches to the pitcher,
who was 0 for 6 on the year.
Well, the fastball worked.
That was Ronnie's point. Never throw a red ball to a pitcher unless you just want to punch him out. You know what I mean? Or guys on base. Guys on base.
1-2 coming. And the curveball back to Matz. And he throws out the jogging Tanaka for the first out. That's 8 in a row retired by Matz. Well, we've been talking a lot about innings pitched and the number of innings pitchers have left, and that's the way it lays out right now.
Well, it is what it is. I wish it was more scientific than that, but you're right, Keith.
I abstained.
It is what it is.
1 out and nobody on. Now Brett Gardner's reached base twice tonight on a walk and a single.
That's hormones in the milk when I was a kid.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to start a petition. That's what it is. James Hoy is behind the plate. It's been a real good pitcher's umpire, but now the pitcher is taking advantage of it. Matz's control has been just a little bit off, and Tanaka's been really pitching the contact.
Right. Does it look as though Max is mixing a little slider that we haven't seen before?
I think he's doing it all. I think we're seeing lots of breaking pitches in this. There's a 2-1 changeup.
Well, the fastball velocity has not been there since the first inning. His last fastball that he threw to Tanaka was 92 miles an hour. That's not what we expect from Max.
I mean, that's one of those gun readings where you come in between innings and the pitching coach goes to you, hey kid, are you all right?
Now the 2-2. And Gardner takes strike 3 call. And that's either a cutter or a slider.
Cutter.
Yeah, cutter.
It's not a pitch we've seen Steven Matz throw before.
Now he's throwing 4 pitches tonight. Fastball, curveball,
Plenty of play.
cutter, and change. Same grip as he uses on that breaking ball. Just tries to throw it a little harder.
He's retired 9 in a row. Now Headley. He takes a fastball for a strike. There's the 95 from Matz. He's been up twice, flied out both times. Nearly got a hold of one the last time and sent Conforto back to the warning track and left. Well, we put up this graphic before. We had the wrong number for DeGrom, and that gives you an idea that DeGrom's limits are probably limitless right now. What's more concern with DeGrom is the fact that he's looked ineffective his last couple of starts. As Headley pulls one through the hole for a 2-out hit. Terry Collins said tonight that they are still not decided whether DeGrom's going to make his start Tuesday night or whether they're going to skip him.
I mean, Harvey's going to be what, on 10 days rest, 11 days rest in between starts. If they skip him, it'll be the same for DeGrom. You want a couple of meteor starts. I don't say meteor like M-E-T-E-O-R.
M-E-A-T-I-E-R.
Exactly. Starts before you go into the postseason. That's to happen.
Beltran's 1 for 2, a broken bat single to right and a fly ball to center. And Carlos grounds one to short. Flores has the hop, goes the short way, and gets Matz through the top of the 5th. We're halfway through at Citi Field. Mets and Yankees tied at 1. Getting through the top of the 5th inning. 88 pitches through 5 for Matz.
He wasn't even that interested in talking to Dan Worthington because he's up this inning. He was just concentrating on getting his elbow guard on.
They'll be due up 3rd in the inning. You see they've gone to the, actually they're now in the 6th in Washington. There you go. Updated right before your eyes. 2-1 Miami. Lower 3rd of the order to face Tanaka, Conforto, Flores, and Matz. That's not your garden variety lower 3rd of the order. Conforto grounded out his first time up.
So that's the big Scherzer-Fernandez matchup, correct?
Each one's given up a home run. Yelich hit a 2-run homer in the first. Glenn Robinson a home run in the second. That's been it so far.
Well, if that game was in Miami, I'd say it'd be done now.
16-0.
At home.
Yeah. Well, the Mets' magic number is 9 after Miami, which has been playing spoiler on both sides.
Yeah.
Beat Washington last night.
Their game outfit, boy. They're not playing it out. There's always a team that spoils, and Miami is the team this year.
They're 12-4 their last 16 games now. Hottest team in the division, just a little too late.
Too little too late.
Without their big star.
One with Flores on deck, then Steven Matz against Tanaka, who has done it with a minimum of effort tonight. 8 of the first 15 batters have seen only 2 pitches or less. Now Tanaka for a rare time behind in the count on Conforto 3-1.
He's going to keep the ball away here. Seems to be Tanaka's pattern behind the count.
See if we see a little slider. There's a little changeup. 3-1.
They got the full shift on against Conforto, which, you know, watching Michael over this last 2 months, a little surprising.
Probably the splitter, Ronnie.
I think it has more to do with Tanaka. Tanaka, you know, is throwing a lot of stuff down. He's throwing a lot of stuff off speed.
It's going to be hard stuff in and the soft stuff away, trying to get him to roll over. Conforto, that is.
First 3-ball count of the night for Tanaka. That's how good he's been. And Conforto, tired of waiting, asked for time.
He went through all the signs. Last one he gave was the curveball. Looked like Tanaka wanted that. Let's see if he goes back. Back to the curveball. There you go. Told you.
3-2 to Conforto, and he rips one foul. So he wasn't fooled by the curveball.
You better be careful when you throw a breaking ball right-hander to him down and in. If you don't get it in enough, he'll put a whooping on you.
Terry Collins was talking about Conforto tonight. He said the one thing that has surprised him has been the power. He knew he was a good hitter, didn't know how much power he had. He goes down swinging on the cutter by Tanaka.
Well, this is a great view for you folks at home that shows you why he's so good. For 55 feet, the pitch looks exactly the same. Splitter on your left, fastball on your right. Both the same pitch, and then the bottom drops out on Lucas Duda on the left, and it stays beautifully true on that outside part to David Wright. That's what makes him so tough to hit.
So as a hitter, how do you read that? If you've got the pitch coming in at the same trajectory most of the way to home plate, how do you figure out which is which?
Gary, on a split finger, on a guy that throws it well, and your left-hand hitter makes it a lot. You have a better chance. You've got to hit like you're on an 0-2 count and go up the middle.
So you're looking for a fastball and adjusting to the split.
There's never Gary Mike, 17 years in the big leagues. There may have been maybe 8% of the pitches I looked for something else. That's if you had a pitcher that was just obviously was a breaking ball pitcher. I always look for the fastball and adjusted.
Doesn't sweat. No redness in his face. Heartbeat about 42.
Flores drills one down the left field line. Just foul.
Now Flores got a count in his favor, got a slider to hit, and just pulled a foul. Now that's efficient.
Yes.
Matz has had to sweat a lot more, but has the Mets even to this point. 2-1 to Flores, and Wilmer yanks that one foul. 2-2.
It almost looks like he throws that little nothing ball down and in. Only thing he can do is hit a foul. Now he missed on the 1-0 pitch, and it made it 2-0 with a fastball away, painted him away. Let's see if he goes back to that pitch here on 2-2. See if he gets the call from Hoy.
Slowly hit for Gregorius. 2 out.
Everything is down. That's why he's getting the ground balls. Gets the count even. I said he might go with the fastball. He went with the slider instead. You know, the Mets hitters, especially right-handers, are trying to pull him. If they try to pull him, they're going to be 6-3, 5-3 all day. Got to try to go the other way. Big ground ball out so far.
So here's Matz, who struck out his first time up. First time in his brief career he has struck out. He had that 3-hit, 4 RBI game in his debut against the Reds. Looking for his first hit since then.
I was always wanted to be an archaeologist. Now I know I can. I just read hieroglyphics from Dave Freed.
Now if you just translate the audio portion into English.
Oh, there it is. The caddy.
Matz tops one back to Tanaka. And he guns it out to retire the side. So Tanaka 1-2-3 against the lower third of the Mets order. Opening game of this 3-game series. Mets and Yanks have played 5. Still tied at 1. Skyscraper tonight. Yankee colors facing north and south, and Mets colors facing east and west.
Very nice. Very PC.
Actually, that works out fine. That means the people in the Bronx can see the Yankee colors, and the people in Queens can see the Mets colors.
Now, whoever wins the ball game, does it go all around? The winner for the winner?
I don't know the answer to that, but I will say that the good folks at the Empire State Building have their orientation perfect.
Very nice.
We are told it will sparkle in the winning team's colors for 10 minutes after the game. Chris Young leads off the 6th and takes a fastball for a strike.
That outdoes Wrigley Field with the flag they wave. But they raise the white flag with the blue W when they win.
Go Cubs go. Young, shallow center field. Cespedes will have to play it on a couple of hops. And so Chris Young is aboard with a leadoff hit to start the 6th inning.
Joe Girardi said in his meeting before the game, he said, listen, I got to get Chris Young in again against the left-hander. He kills left-handers. Well, he's doing it tonight.
Well, he's got the only RBI for the Yankees with a sac fly. Now he's got their 6th hit. And that'll get Greg Bird up. Bird, one of 3 left-hand hitters in the lineup against Matz tonight.
He missed a couple pitches in his last at bat. He's had some good swings against Matz.
Had an opposite field single, and then he flied out in a 10-pitch at bat in the 3rd, and Matz busts him inside for ball 1.
Always a good pitch to start off a lefty. Let him think about that up and in Cheddar.
Young 3 stolen bases this year. Double play ball. Murphy waits on it, gets the out at second. Flores, the return goes wide. Backed up and holding at first is Bird. And Murph didn't charge it. He laid back. And so I'm not sure Flores even had a chance to turn the double play.
Well, you made the right call, Garrett. You didn't come in and get it. You got to come break the distance down. Now, not a good throw. We've seen Flores all year get real loose with his throw, but he has to rush it with the runner coming down on him.
You know, we don't always get to show it, but Duda came up with that ball, or the pitcher came up with it, but Darno had hustled down to first base to back it up. We never get to see that with the catchers. They're just, you really appreciate that as a player.
There's John Ryan Murphy, who's 0 for 2. Grounded out and struck out. Well, you mentioned the throw by Flores with the runner Young bearing down on him, and it takes us back to what happened in Pittsburgh yesterday with Jung Ho Gong getting waylaid on a slide by Chris Coughlin and ending his season, and maybe putting a crip in next season as well. Really tore up his knee, broke his leg. Slowly hit right on the charge with the bare hand, and he throws out Murphy. Beautifully done, David Wright. Made that bare hand play as well as anybody over the course of his career, and there are 2 out.
Well, I remember Young in David's younger days, him not being so adept at it. But remember, Sandy Alomar Sr. was the infield coach back then, and Cookie Rojas, and he worked with them. And David, all that hard work, David is one of the best I've ever seen with the bare hand.
It's become his signature play.
You know, a lot of times you hold your breath if you're in the field when you're a third baseman do it. David, I'm up here, I never hold my breath.
And it's really one of the few times since he's been back from the back condition that he's been asked to make this play. And you always wonder, a guy with a back problem, will he be able to bend over properly to be able to make it? And David did. So 2 out, Bird at second, and now Gregorius.
The reason why he makes that play so well is the timing of it. He always catches the ball while his right foot is on the ground. So when he catches it with the full hand and the right foot is on the ground, that propels him to first to make that throw in one motion.
2 straight fastballs outside corner.
Well, it hasn't been the easiest night for Steven Matz, but he's trying to get through 6 with only 1 run against him.
He's battled. That's what you'd like to see.
Ahead on Gregorius, 0-2.
Loves the little slow down tactic by the hitter. You get 0-2. You want to let that pitcher think about it a little bit. You want to think about it.
Seven pitches for Matz, which is the most he's thrown since coming back from the disabled list. Brendan Ryan would be next. Have to figure this is going to be his last inning. One-two coming. And Gregorius almost falls over as he takes the pitch out of the strike zone.
That was that little cutter slider we were talking about. Just missed. Good call by James Hoyt. I think that ball's a little down and outside.
Two-two from Matz. Gregorius able to foul it back.
He's leaning now, so with 2 strikes. Vulnerable end.
Yeah, and you don't have a lot of speed on the bases, so he's able to put one in the outfield for a hit. Got an accurate arm by Conforto, one of the best arms in the game by Cespedes.
And a hard-working night for Matz, about to throw his 100th pitch. Two and 2 to Gregorius. He's able to waste away that fastball.
Boy, that knocked off the padding behind the right leg of Darno. That's what they use behind their leg, where they can sit down on their haunches. It takes a lot of the pressure off their knee, but it got fouled off, and it just took it right off.
That's why they invented Velcro. Put it right back on.
I wish I had thought of that.
Velcro?
Yeah.
You wouldn't be working here.
Exactly.
Try not to take that personally.
7th pitch of the at-bat to Gregorius. Hit to shortstop. Flores circles in. Maybe took too much time and he lost the play. Flores unaware of the speed of Gregorius. And Gregorius beats out an infield hit.
Can't happen. This is the big leagues. That cannot happen. That's a routine ground ball. 6-3 on your scorecard. Look at all the wasted motion coming up. It just does not happen at this level.
Well, Matt should be out of the inning. That's a routine ground ball. And either Flores forgot or misjudged the speed of Gregorius.
No, he knows the speed of Gregorius. Wilmer just takes his time here.
Oh, what a big play.
All right, so how do you handle this? You got Tanaka coming up next. They're not going to bat for him. You got 1st and 3rd and 2 out. How do you handle Ryan in this spot?
I would bat A-Rod for Ryan right now. That's what I would do.
That's a very good point, Ron.
Well, you said maybe use him early.
Then they'd walk.
That's a good call.
And they can walk A-Rod to get to Tanaka.
Okay.
Right. Well, Ryan is a light hitter, but do you take your chances?
Got to go after the 8-hole hitter here. Got to. If you got A-Rod looming, you never know.
Well, the Yankees are going to get their bullpen at least nominally going, just to give Joe Girardi the option of batting for Tanaka, although it's hard to believe he'd bat for his best starter after 58 pitches.
It's interesting. Darno has almost put a little delay in the game. I don't know what he was doing. A lot of pointing.
Bird is on 3rd. Gregorius at 1st. And Ryan grounds one to Flores. He'll get another chance at it and handles it for the 4th play that ends the inning. So Matz has to face one extra batter and gets through the inning unscathed. 6 solid innings from Matz. Still a 1-1 game. Cubs beat the Cardinals. Big day for Starlin Castro. 2 homers, 6 RBIs. Long Island's Marcus Stroman has the Blue Jays in front of the Red Sox 4-1 in the 6th. And the Nats tied up the Marlins on a wild pitch by Jose Fernandez in the bottom of the 6th. That game is 2-2.
Long Island.
It is Matz and Stroman on the same night. Third time around the batting order for Masahiro Tanaka. Curtis Granderson leads off. Matz's night is over. 102 pitches over 6 innings, and despite again not having his best stuff, again he's able to work his way through it.
It's impressive.
Gave up 1 run in 6 innings. It's 5 straight starts now to start his career that Matz has given up 2 runs or fewer. Tanaka behind Granderson 2-0. Curtis has grounded out and struck out tonight. Cespedes and Murphy to follow. And Granderson takes a knee-high fastball for a strike.
Cut that low strike there.
2-0 paint.
And Curtis takes it low. And now Tanaka runs a 3-ball count for only the 2nd time tonight. He's not walked a batter. He struck out 3. Cespedes on deck. Murphy behind him. And Granderson pops it up. Gregorius out, Young in, and Young is called. Staggers but makes the catch, 1 away.
That was one of those cases where every single pitch you saw was down to the at-bat, and you got a ball about letter high, and it was good enough to hit, just a little late by Curtis.
Now Cespedes is 0 for 2 tonight. Cespedes was talking with the writers before the game tonight and revealed that he wants his next contract to be his last. He wants to sign for 6 years or more. See how that goes. Call strike, 0-1.
Everything so far has been down and away. Nothing middle of plate in, nothing up and in, or any kind of breaking ball in that he has been hammering.
That was nasty. Splitter by Tanaka, 0-2. Murphy on deck. Mets have had 3 hits tonight. Lucas Judah has a pair of extra base hits, a home run and a double. David Wright a single, and those have been all the base runners for the Mets against Tanaka tonight. And Cespedes goes down on the split. So Tanaka has his 4th strikeout.
Well, that is the classic split finger that breaks down. And Ronnie was mentioning the grip, and we're showing you the grip there. And I played with Bruce Sutter in St. Louis, and Bruce, of course, was the master. And he told me, I asked him how he threw it, and I could be wrong about where the seams are, Gary, but he used more of his thumb, and he pushed his thumb up through the ball, and as a result, I will show you after this pitch. Bruce always told me he threw with his thumb underneath, and I could be wrong on the seams.
Yeah, okay.
But after he threw, his thumb always finished like this.
Wow.
So his thumb pushed the ball. That's the darndest thing I've ever heard.
Looks like it would be awfully hard to control.
Well, he did.
It worked.
Ball to strike to Murphy, who's fly down, grounded out.
If you don't think pitching is a craft, an art form, Tanaka's showing you how to do it right now. Gets behind 1-0, flips in a little curveball. If you're going to swing in a split in the dirt, he'll throw another one. If you're going to take a split, he can throw it for a strike.
Going for his 13th win of the year. He won 13 last year in just 20 starts. He was going to be the odds-on choice for American League Rookie of the Year until his season was curtailed because of the elbow problem. 7 years with the Rakuten Golden Eagles. 99-35 with a 2.3 ERA, including 24-0, 1.27 his last year in Japan. 24-0, 1.27. It's the best year ever. Better than Doc. Better than Gibson. Better than Guidry.
Wins don't matter that much in the analytics.
Yeah, but 1.27.
Oh, okay. ERA plus?
I don't know the ballpark factors in the Rakuten home ballpark. Not sure if the folks at Baseball Prospectus have scoped that out.
A little cutter in here.
Murphy drives one deep right center. Beltran takes a look. It's out of here! Daniel Murphy gives the Mets the lead with a long home run. Number 12 for Murphy, and it was a bomb. 2-1 New York.
One of the few mistakes Tanaka has made today, and you don't make it to a quality hitter like Daniel Murphy.
Well, Ronnie mentioned earlier the home run numbers on Tanaka. He's given up 2 tonight to Duda and Murphy. 24 now for the year, and it has the Mets in front for the first time tonight.
This is a hanging slider, I believe, Ronnie.
Yep, little slider cutter in that leaves right over the middle.
Oh, yes.
Like it's on a tee.
Has Daniel Murphy hit some enormous home runs for this team?
Yes, he has.
Hit that 2-out tying home run in the ninth in Atlanta Sunday. Now the go-ahead home run tonight.
Good balance, full extension of the arms. You can see Larry Rothschild in the background. His expression, he knew it was going right away.
12 home runs for Murphy, 1 shy of his career high he set 2 years ago. 0-2 to right, and David lines one into center for a base hit. That was a splitter that stayed up on 0-2, and David has his second hit of the night.
So Gary mentioned before that 16 of his 20 starts coming into this start had been on extra days rest for Tanaka. This is the first time back-to-back with no extra days rest, and here in the 6th, maybe tiring a bit.
And he's going to go without extra rest in his next start against Toronto on Wednesday too, as they push him harder going down the stretch. Jason Shreve will get up in the Yankee bullpen. But first, Lucas Duda will bat. Duda's had a huge night already with a home run and a double, as he has broken out of his post-DL slumber. Lucas came into the night just 3 for 25 since returning from the DL. But he has broken out with authority against one of the best pitchers in the game. Right at first and 2 out. Ball and strike. Tanaka's only thrown 77 pitches. He's had a lot of very quick at-bats against him tonight. But he's given up the 2 long balls, and both were really well struck. Both Duda and Murphy get him out of sight.
A good split there. It's a little ironic coming into this game. We talked about the Yankees scoring almost 50% of their runs via the home run. Well, the Mets since July 25th now of 83 lead the majors.
Mets came into the night 5th in the National League in home runs for the season. They have really turned up the power since they added to their lineup with Cespedes et al. 16th game the Mets are playing in September. They've hit at least two home runs in 9 of the 16. Buehler lays off 2-2. Well, Steven Matz has the lead. He's got a chance to go 4-0 in his first 5 starts if the bullpen can get it done for him. He's only the second player in Mets history, second pitcher to win 3 of his first 4. And if you had 25 guesses, you probably couldn't guess who the other guy was. There's the Mets offense since the acquisitions began July 25th. The only other Met pitcher who won 3 of his first 4 appearances, Jason Hockamy, who won only 10 games in his major league career. Soft tossing lefty back in the early 90s. Thinking out every pitch against the suddenly hot duty. 2-2. Lucas again able to lay off the split. 3-2.
Well, he has to be careful. Lucas has had a beat on him in this game. Isn't it nice to see, though, Keith, that pitch that he would swing over the top of? It seemed for a month he laid off the last 2 pitches.
Well, now he'll have Wright moving with the pitch. Last time up, Duda buried a double in the right field corner, and Wright had to stop at third. This time he'll have the extra start. And Lucas pulls one past Bird. Ryan is there. Tanaka covers, and they get the 4-1 putout to end the inning. But the Mets grab the lead on a tape measure home run off the bat of Daniel Murphy. Murph's 12th home run of the year puts the Mets in front. 2-1 as we go to the 7th. With MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball. Enjoy live look-ins, highlights, replay reviews, scores, StatCast, live radio broadcasts, and more Download MLB.com at bat for your smartphone or tablet now. Your line store brought to you by your Tri-State Ford dealer. Yankees got a run in the first after a leadoff walk, which was the only walk Steven Matz allowed in 6 innings. Solo homers by Lucas Duda and Daniel Murphy have put the Mets in front. Moon and flag. They're very artistic.
Oh, very nice.
And the whole world is watching. The Mets and the Yankees.
Down under.
7th inning, Mets will go to their bullpen. Hansel Robles, first man out of that pen tonight. And if you're wondering why not Addison Reed, who's been working the 7th, and that's because Tyler Clippard apparently is not available tonight. And so Robles gets the 7th.
He missed the week. He went back home for a funeral for his grandfather. His last outing was 2 days ago against Miami. Had no decision, 2 strikeouts in the inning of work.
Jacoby Ellsbury pinch hitting, first pitch swinging, and he pops one up. Flores retreating. Conforto calls him off. 1 pitch for Robles and 1 out. So Ellsbury, who's been struggling mightily and was held out of the lineup tonight, comes up to pinch hit and pops up the first pitch he sees. So 1 out and nobody on, up to the top of the order, and Brett Gardner. So Matz threw 102 pitches over 6 innings, allowed 1 run, 7 hits, walked 1, struck out 4. Matz becomes the first pitcher in Mets history to allow 2 runs or fewer in each of his first 5 starts.
Amazing.
His ERA through those 5 starts 1.80, and he has a chance to go 4-0 if the bullpen can get him 8 more outs.
These young kids, every time they take the mound, it's another history maker.
Gardner walked leading off the game against Matz and scored the Yankees' only run. And he singled to left center in the 2nd, struck out in the 5th. Robles, when an inning of 3rd Wednesday, looked very good. Walked the first man he faced and then retired 4 in a row. And that skips to the backstop, 2-0. Well, combined numbers for Ellsbury and Gardner. Normally the table setters for the Yankees. Great early, not so great lately. Gardner just 1 for his last 16. And he takes a fastball for a strike. We mentioned Clippard not available tonight, and we're passing that along. Terry Collins did a mid-game interview with the MLB Network and said that Clippard's back had tightened up before the game, and that's why he is not available tonight. And that's a shame. Not only because it certainly hampers the Mets bullpen, but also because Clippard was really looking forward to this.
That's right.
He made his big league debut in a Mets-Yankees game as a Yankee.
Yeah, in Flushing at the Big Shea. Great game. Gave up a run in 6 innings pitched.
Sunday night game. First outing of his big league career. He even had a hit in that game. 3-1 to Gardner. And he takes a fastball for a strike. Bullpen. Well, the Yankees have to look ahead of them in the standings. They're 3.5 behind Toronto, and the Blue Jays are up 6-1 on Boston in the 7th. They also have to look behind them. They're 4 games up on Houston for the first wild card, 5.5 up on Minnesota for the second wild card. Oh, and Robles goes upstairs to fan Gardner, 2 men down.
Got him to chase.
Hot. Watch Gardner after he hits himself in the head with his bat, saying, "Dummy." I took those balls down the middle and swung at the one over my head.
So Robles has retired the first 2. Now he'll take on Chase Headley, who turns around to bat left-handed. Got a base hit, batting right-handed his last time up against Matz. The Astros holding that second wild card lead. Oakland 2-0 in the 3rd after their disastrous week against the Rangers. Got swept in a 4-game series to get knocked out of first place in the AL West.
The Rangers losing tonight at home against Seattle early.
Minnesota is the other team that has a chance to unseat the Yankees or the Astros. They got rained out tonight at home against the Angels. The Angels have been pushing as well. They beat the Twins last night behind 2 Mike Trout home runs. 1-1, and Headley watches outside. 2-1. At least they got rained out in Minnesota, not snowed out.
That's right.
We've been there. Justin Wilson and Chasen Shreve, the 2 lefties up in the Yankee bullpen. 2-1 to Headley with Beltran on deck. And Headley gets jammed and fouls it off. And Robles gets even.
Good pitch by Robles there. Got to stay upstairs on Chase Headley from the left side. Likes the ball down. See how he ties himself up almost in that ball in.
Yeah.
A little slow, to say the least.
Two, quick pitch, it's foul back. So Robles unveiling the quick pitch against the Yankees.
He unveiled it, but the ball was right down the middle. Unveil it and throw the ball to the corner.
Two to Headley. Strike 3 call. Back-to-back strikeouts for Hansel Robles in a 1-2-3 top of the 7th. Stretch time 2-1 Mets. Above and beyond. House divided indeed. I would say, unlike many of the games we've seen in the past between the Mets and Yankees, the Mets house is pretty undivided tonight. Jacoby Ellsbury stays in center field. Brett Gardner moves to left. Chasen Shreve, the new pitcher, will hit 4th in the order.
What do you mean? You're saying there's a lot of orange and blue here.
I'm saying there are very few Yankee fans compared to the number we normally see in these games at Citi Field.
Well, Shreve, his last appearance was not good. 30 walks he has this year and 56 in the 3rd innings pitched. He is one of those pitchers, lefty and righties, that run that Scranton-Wilkes-Barre shuttle from Yankee Stadium to Scranton all summer long.
They got him from the Braves. Saw him last year with Atlanta. Travis d'Arnaud went 0 for 2 against Masahiro Tanaka. He's fairly thrilled that Tanaka's out of the game. Michael Kadire out on deck to bat for Michael Conforto with a lefty in the game. And Shreve starts him off with an off-speed pitch for strike one. There's Kadire. Behind him is Wilmer Flores. Mets lead 2-1. Solo home runs by Duda and Murphy tonight off Tanaka. d'Arnaud grounds one down to Headley. 1 out.
d'Arnaud got caught in a little pull mode tonight.
The lines at Shake Shack never end. Must be some burger.
Danny Meyer's happy.
Here's Kadire facing the lefty Shreve. Michael got the start on Wednesday, went 1 for 3 against the Marlins. Game in which the Mets only had 3 hits. They have only 5 hits tonight, but they've had the 2 long balls that have made the difference. Jason Shreve came to the Yankees in the deal that sent Manny Banuelos to the Braves. And Banuelos wound up in the Braves starting rotation this year. Addison Reed getting ready to pitch the 8th inning for the Mets. Shreve behind 2-0. Kadire takes a fastball for a strike. Wilmer Flores on deck. Outside and low 3-1. Tanaka went 6, allowed 2 runs, 5 hits, no walks, 4 strikeouts, 2 home runs, just 82 pitches. And on the short end tonight. (3-1) coming. And Kadire takes another fastball for a strike. So he took a 2-0 fastball for a strike. He takes a 3-1 fastball for a strike.
Sitting on changeup, maybe, Keith?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, this is more like a Mets game in the middle of July, isn't it?
2014. A lot of that.
Earlier. In April, May, and June. Before the axe.
3-2 from Shreve. And that's on the outside corner. So Kadire took 3 fastballs in that at bat, and he goes down looking for the second out.
Very interesting, Kadire there, what he was doing up there. The veteran never took the bat off his shoulder. And that's a strike.
Yep. So 2 out and nobody on. Now Wilmer Flores, who's fouled out and grounded out.
Be ready for that first pitch fastball, Wilmer.
I would think that Terry would throw Tejada in for defense after Wilmer's the bat here.
Broken back toward the middle and past Ryan. A base hit for Flores. Shreve shattered his bat with that first pitch. But Flores able to sneak it up the middle for a 2-out hit.
Nice hitting by Wilmer. Just out of the reach of Ryan.
Now Juan Uribe is announced as the pinch hitter. The Yankees bullpen is quiet, so he'll get to face the left-hander. The Yankees' 8th and 9th inning bullpen is about as good as anybody.
That's right. It's up there with Kansas City and others. Pittsburgh.
So the key is don't let them get a lead late. Uribe taking all the way, and it's outside. Splitter from Shreve.
Now Uribe is the kind of guy to me that would sit on a changeup 1-0.
hammers one out to right. Beltran back to the warning track. It's out of here! Juan Uribe goes the other way. A 2-run pinch hit home run. Three home runs tonight for the Mets and a 4-1 lead in the 7th.
These three offensive players that came over at the before the deadline, what contributions they have made to this ball club. Change up,
14th home run, his 6th as a Met.
Change up going the other way, and he knew he got it. That's the deepest part of right field right there, and that get plenty.
It's a veteran guy sitting on a pitch. When he got it, he didn't miss it.
Terry Collins pushing the right button.
Well, Joe Girardi didn't want to go to a right-hander to face Uribe. He stuck with the lefty Shreve, and he paid for it. Granderson's 0 for 3 tonight. Shreve got the first 2 outs, but the broken bat hit by Flores, and then the home run. And now Granderson drives one deep center field, but playable for Ellsbury, and that retires the side. But the Mets expand their lead. 4th pinch hit home run for the Mets this season. Juan Uribe going the other way, and he knew it. 2-run shot makes it 4-1 Mets as we go to the 8th at Citi Field. After giving up a 2-run homer to Juan Uribe that stretched the Mets lead to 4-1. Yoenis Cespedes moves to left field. Juan Lagares takes over in center field, and Addison Reed will pitch the 8th inning for the Mets.
You know, I watched him from home pitch the other night, and I remember him when he was with the Arizona Diamondbacks. He really struggled to find that release point in his slider. From home the other night, it's the best slider I've seen him have since he started his young career.
Carlos Beltran leads off the 8th inning and takes the strike.
Oh, he's always got the good fastball.
Yeah.
He's got a good arm.
40 saves for the White Sox in 2013, so it's almost like you got a closer in the 8th.
Well, timing is everything, because Reed had gotten on a nice roll for the Diamondbacks before the Mets acquired him. Looked like it took him a couple of outings to settle in, but since then he's been on fire.
That's where your advanced scouts just really work their magic.
And Beltran down on 3 pitches, strikes out on the high fastball. 1 down in the 8th.
Well, the Yankees are showing their Achilles heel as far as their offense is concerned, and that's playing out of their league where they cannot use the DH. A-Rod not in the lineup.
Brian McCann will be the pinch hitter here. Hitting for the pitchers in the 4-hole. McCann 25 home runs this year. Much better year than his first Yankee season. And Reed overmatches him with the first fastball. So Robles worked to 1-2-3 7th. Reed in the 8th with Clippard unavailable tonight. And McCann pops one up. David Wright a long way to run, but he gets there. 2 out. Out of town scores brought to you by Ram. That Marlins Nats game is now in the 8th. Tied at 2-2 with the Marlins threatening first and third, 1 out. And then later tonight, the Pirates, who are now only a game and a half in front of the Cubs for the first wild card, have to face Zach Greinke tonight in L.A.
Well, if you're an opposing pitcher, you look down that lineup, you go, okay, where's Greinke and Kershaw? I got one of them. Right?
Here's Greg Bird with 2 out and nobody on. Well, the Mets will be in that position.
Yeah, you're right.
Weeks, it would appear. Fastball strike to Bird, who's 1 for 3 tonight. Well, the Mets could have their magic number as low as 7 by the end of the night with a win and some help from the Marlins.
It's either going to be Yogi or Craneful.
I think I would go Carter or Reyes, but that's a matter of individual decision.
What are you guys talking about? I think I missed this. Magic number using a player?
It's been going on in the Twitter world. They've been posting Met numbers. I think it's cool. I like that. It's one of the few things I liked on Twitter.
I was mimeographing some papers at the time. I must have missed it. Must have missed the Twitter.
Oh, 2 to Greg Bird. Struck him out. Dominant inning for Addison Reed. To the bottom of the 8th, 4-1 Mets. Choose Nissan today for great offers on the most exciting lineup ever. Shop ChooseNissan.com. Playoff picture brought to you by Optimum Wi-Fi. Mets with an 8-game lead, a magic number of 9. Yankees 3.5 back of Toronto, which is having an easy time of it against Boston tonight. Meanwhile, in Washington, the Marlins just took the lead on the Nats 3-2 in the 8th inning. So the Mets may get help as well tonight.
That's right. The Nationals are without Mr. Storin for that 8th inning. Brandon Pinder in the game. 23 games pitched for the Rail Riders in Scranton, and now 23 for the Yankees.
And more effective against lefties than righties. Reverse splits for the right-hander. And Cespedes leads off. I got that backwards.
Yeah,
his splits are
lefty.
Normal for a right-hander. Lefties have hit him hard. Cespedes 0 for 3 tonight. Now 0 for his last 12. Murphy in right to follow. Jerry's Familia starting to get ready in the bullpen. Familia tonight, if the Mets do not score in this 8th inning, will be going for his 42nd save. His 41 is just 2 off the Mets club record held by Armando Benitez. Out to left center field, cutting across is Ellsbury, and gets there. 1 out. Now Daniel Murphy, who generated the play of the game, brought to you by McDonald's. This was in the 6th inning in a tie game.
And a solo shot. Hanging slider, number 12 for Murph. Another big clutch home run for the Murph man.
Mets have scored 3 of their 4 runs with 2 outs today.
You know, Murph's only hit a dozen home runs this year. It feels as though every one has come in a big spot. Obviously the one in Atlanta on Sunday. But remember the one he hit in the top of the 9th in Miami earlier this year when the Mets were getting beat?
Well, maybe he's owed some. Remember the first series of the year, he had a chance to tie the ball game, and Jason Worth robbed the home run in right field. Maybe they're going over the fence now for the Murph.
Well, he's hitting a lot further over the fence now.
No chance to catch him.
$43,602 that paid attendance tonight, the 2nd largest crowd in Citi Field history.
That's nice. Love it. And they've been into it.
'26-year-old Brandon Pinder out of Long Beach State behind on Murphy 2-0. There's a strike. That's box score brought to you by Nissan. Shop ChooseNissan.com. It's been all about the home runs tonight. Duda, Murphy, not pictured there, Uribe, accounting for all 4 Met runs. And Pinder misses inside. 2-2.
Yeah, you know this better than me. How many fans could you stuff in Shea Stadium?
Well, it depends. Early on in their history, they got 58, 59,000 on a couple of occasions. But most years it was more in the 55 range. That's strike 3-2. One out and nobody on. 3-2 to Murphy, and he slaps one foul. They've gone to the 9th in Toronto. Blue Jays 6, Red Sox 1 behind Marcus Stroman. So the Yankees, if they were to lose tonight, would be in danger of falling 4.5 behind Toronto. They got 3 games coming up in Toronto starting on Monday, but they're having some difficulty here. Again, the 3-2, and Murphy hits this one out to center, chasing Ellsbury back to the warning track.
jumping, and he loses it off his glove. Murphy racing to second. He'll take the turn, try for 3. Ellsbury's throw to third, not in time. Murphy arrives safely with a triple.
Boy, this ball is misplayed by Ellsbury.
And Murph slowed down between first and second. He thought that ball was going to be caught, but it was not.
Just off the tick of the glove. When Ellsbury turned around, he's kept going straight back, and then he realized he had to get over, so he didn't have a direct line to the ball, and that's the difference.
First triple of the year for Murphy to go with his home run tonight. And that will force the Yankees to play the infield in against David Wright. David's already 2 for 3 tonight. Nothing in 1. Well, it's been a pattern lately. The Mets have 8 hits tonight, and 5 of the 8 have been for extra bases. 3 home runs, a double, and now Murphy's triple. Pender misses inside 1-1. Murph arrives safely and tells Headley, get away. Get away.
Lucky Ray Knight wasn't playing third.
Oh.
Murphy just trying to hang on for dear life. And Wright takes a breaking ball for a strike. 1-2. Pender in need of a strikeout. Ahead on Wright. 1-2.
Nice block.
Murphy goes down to get it. 2-2. The other Murphy. Him.
Yeah, John Ryan.
Beautiful block.
Lucas Duda, who's at a big night, waiting on deck. Two coming. And Wright bounces it foul. The triple for Murphy was the Mets' 15th triple of the season. Only their 6th at Citi Field.
I was going to say, didn't Reyes used to do like 15 a year?
Well, he never was healthy enough. I thought when Reyes came here, he'd hit 20 triples.
With the original dimension.
Yes.
The fence isn't anymore. He won't have any doubles either.
Right. Oh, boy. James Hoy got a little tight there. That right arm, need a little oil on it.
David gets another chance.
Oh boy, had to quite had plate.
(3-2) from Pender to Wright. And David takes ball 4. And now the Mets have runners at the corners. First walk given up by Yankee pitching tonight. It's the best way to start your weekday. Join Suki, Corey, Linda Church with the weather, and Caitlin Monty with all the traffic from 5 to 9 on the Pix 11 Morning News, where every story hits home. Joe Girardi fussing a little with the home plate umpire James Hoy on his way out to the mound. They'll bring in the left-hander to face Lucas Duda with runners at first and third. The call to the bullpen is brought to you by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Mets up 4-1 in the 8th and looking for more. We'll be right back. At third base, James Pazos is in to pitch for the Yankees.
Boy, it's been quite a run for Pazos. He started as a non-roster invitee in spring training, went to Trenton, Scranton, and now in the big leagues.
College teammate of Chris Bryant's at the University of San Diego. They'll come in to face Lucas Duda, first and third and one out. Duda with a double and a home run tonight. And to the backstop, and Young will score easily to make it 5-1 Mets. First pitch, wild pitch from James Pazos, and the Mets tack on.
Well, much of the similar thing, Ronnie. That game of the week where the Yankees lost, had that big inning with all the wild pitch and the walks. The shades of that game. It was against Toronto, was it not?
Yes, it was.
Extra innings. Not even close. So right now at second, that's now with a 4-1 lead that takes away the save chance for Familia. And Duda takes a fastball for a strike. That's 3, 4, and 5 hitters. Murphy, Wright, and Duda tonight. 6 for 10 with 2 home runs, a double, and a triple. And that's a big night from the heart of the order. Murphy with a home run and a triple in the same game. It's only the third time a Met has done that this year. The first 2 times, Cespedes.
Of course.
Second time in his career, Murphy's had a triple and a homer in the same game. The first time was in 2009. 24-year-old James Pazos with a 2-1, and Duda hits this one in the air to left center. Ellsbury chasing this one back to the warning track, and this time he makes the catch. Wright tags, and he'll step over to third base. Now Ellsbury messed up the ball that Murphy hit earlier in the inning, this time able to track down Duda's drive for the second out.
Okie dokie.
And now Joe Girardi's going to want a right-hander to face Travis d'Arnaud. So Pazos faced one batter, threw a wild pitch that brought in a run, gives up a long fly ball, and he'll take his exit. And the Yankees will bring in a right-hander to face d'Arnaud. Call to the bullpen brought to you by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. 5-1 Mets. We'll be right back. In Queens late in the season. Postseason chances on the line for both teams. Steven Matz, Masahiro Tanaka, long balls, Duda, and then Murphy putting the Mets in front. And then for good measure, Uribe with a pinch hit home run. And the Mets now with a 5-1 lead as they bat in the bottom of the 8th inning. And the Yankees will go to their 5th pitcher of the night, and local product Andrew Bailey out of Wagner College comes in.
Who they've signed a couple of times. He missed the entire season last year. Right shoulder surgery.
Travis d'Arnaud's had a rough night at the plate. Fouls off the first pitch slider.
Bailey's best years were in an Oakland uniform in 2009, 2010, and 11. He was their closer.
d'Arnaud 0 for 3 tonight, 3 ground ball outs. Wright is on third with 2 out. And Travis goes after a fastball and misses 0-2. Eric Young, who scored on that wild pitch since his return to the Mets, has not had a hit, but now has 7 runs scored. Classic pinch runner numbers. Nats have gone in front of the Marlins 4-3 in the bottom of the 8th. 1-2 to d'Arnaud.
Well, we saw last year at Kansas City Royals and what they did with their fast speed demons played a big part in them getting to the 7th game of the World Series.
And they've got Terrence Gore back with them now. He was their designated runner. Yankees have one of those guys on their September roster, Rico Noel.
No Herb Washington, but you know, you gotta have someone who's got some speed.
Well, Herb never had a bat in his hands in his life. He was a sprinter, nothing else. 2-2 to d'Arnaud. Fouls went off.
That was d'Arnaud's best swing all night.
Nats took the lead in the bottom of the 8th. A sac fly by Ian Desmond, an RBI single by Michael Taylor. Desperation times now for Washington. Again, the 2-2. And Travis takes strike 3 called. So Bailey comes in and gets a strikeout, but the Mets tack on a run in the 8th. We head to the 9th with the Mets up 5-1. Honda comes in to play short, and Jay Reese-Familia looking to close it out in a non-save situation.
Yeah, non-save situation, 4-run lead, but huge game here for the Mets. Look at those numbers. They're almost like video numbers.
Well, for Jay Reese-Familia, his signature pitch this year has changed. He used to be a sinker slider guy, but now he's got a new one.
I mean, great like that. I just throw like my sinker. If I want to throw for a strike, I throw in the masker and the catcher. If I want to throw for down, I just look in the target and try.
Now, this isn't a traditional split finger, right? It's kind of in between. What does this grip do? Is it more of, I know Ricky was saying, kind of like more of a BP fastball almost?
Yeah, it's like a BP fastball. Take a couple miles off to a sinker, straight down, and that's all.
Does it, you said you won't like to use it against lefties. Why is it so effective against lefties?
Because it's going that way, it's like the sinker, but a couple more miles off, going that way. When I try, like I said yesterday, they looking just for sinker and slider. And when I throw that, it's more difficult for them.
And Dustin Ackley, the pinch hitter for the Yankees, first man who'll try and make it difficult for him.
And Mr. Familia would be correct on his nice little assessment of why he likes to throw it to lefties. Couldn't agree with him more.
Ackley, acquired before the trading deadline for Seattle, has done little for the Yankees since arriving. And he goes after that splitter and misses 1-2. Familia hasn't pitched since Monday when he earned his 41st save of the season against Miami. Didi Gregorius on deck. Quick pitch, driven to right field, right down the line, toward the pole, and it's a fair ball into the corner. Ackley digs for second, and he's in with a pinch hit double. So Dustin Ackley down in the count, hammers a double that almost got out of the ballpark.
Fastball in. Surprised. That ball was ripped.
If you have any kind of advanced scouts against the Mets, you've got to be careful, because Familia, when he quick pitches, most of the time it's a fastball. Gonna have to change that come postseason.
Didi Gregorius at the plate. Alex Rodriguez is out on deck to pinch hit for Brendan Ryan. Interesting. Joe Girardi playing the A-Rod card before he gets the tying run to bat. Nothing in one to Gregorius, but I guess when you're down 4 runs in the ninth, sometimes you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You don't want to be left with A-Rod left in the dugout at the end of the game.
Precisely.
And you got Ellsbury hitting ninth behind Ryan's spot, and then Gardner. You're not going to hit for those guys. Ackley at second and nobody out. The 8th Yankee hit of the night. They haven't scored since the first. Fouled at the plate, and it's 0-2. In-game box score for the Yankees brought to you by Nissan. Shop ChooseNissan.com. Chris Young has the only RBI. He's out of the lineup now. Sacrifice fly in the first. Stephen Matz scattered 7 hits over 6 innings. Hansel Robles and Addison Reed each pitched a 1-2-3 inning. Now Familia's given up a leadoff double in the ninth.
Both teams with 8 hits, but the big difference is the Mets banged out 3 home runs.
Matz in line to go 4-0 in his career if Familia can finish it off. 0-2 to Gregorius. He throws the splitter low. 1-2. After we're done here tonight, it's the Pix 11 News. Over on SNY, it's WB Mason Postgame Live. One-two coming. Grounded foul. At what point does Familia throw too many splitters?
Well, it's like any new pitch for a pitcher. It's that you fall in love with it because it's a swing and miss kind of pitch. It produces a lot of strikeouts, but he can't lose what brought him to this dance this year, and that's that good 99-mile-an-hour sinking fastball. No one else in baseball has it. Only he does.
Gregorius pulls one foul, so that was his sinker there.
How about Miami? They got some pluck.
They tied in the ninth inning against Jonathan Papelbon. And no tears are shed from New York to Philadelphia or beyond.
Was he trying to win tonight?
I don't know. I guess he was not that guy. Sixth pitch of the at-bat coming to Gregorius. And he'll bounces one to Tejada. Runner holds, one out. Well, the back ends of these two bullpens have been spectacular. It's been the everybody else that's been the problem for both teams. And now you hear the reaction of the crowd as Alex Rodriguez strides to the plate as a pinch hitter.
A meeting at the mound, and guess what, guys? Hey, you can't beat us. Let's go get them.
This will be the first time for Familia facing A-Rod in a regular season game. A-Rod having an unexpectedly solid bounce-back season after suspension. 32 home runs this year to lead the Yankees. Runner at second and one out. Yankees down by 4 in the ninth. And he goes after that first pitch fastball, 0-1.
Sinker out of the strike zone. Not going to make contact. Look at that late sink on it. Not going to have too much success.
Kobe Ellsbury on deck. A-Rod has one pinch hit home run in his career, and that came this season. He has not started the game in the field since April, and the Yankees have no intention of starting him in this series. So the full-time DH relegated to pinch hitting duties in these 3 games. It just missed. 2-1.
I said in the open, I was shocked that at some point after the All-Star break they didn't look towards September and say, hey, you're going to have to play first base or something in a game against the left-handed starting pitcher. You're going to have to. That's how good he's been this year.
Instead, Greg Bird started at first base, went 1 for 4 tonight. 2-1 coming, and that's grounded foul. Good sink by Familia there, and it's 2-2. Final in Toronto tonight. Blue Jays 6, Red Sox 1. If the Yankees don't rally, they'll be 4.5 behind Toronto. Two to A-Rod. And that just missed.
Remember the pitch to Pinder, to David Wright?
Yep.
Similar pitch. I thought it was a good pitch on the inside corner. That might have been off. I'll give that one to Hoy.
Good call.
You got it right.
Terrible. Three and 2 to Rodriguez. And he walked him. It was not what Familia intended. Now the Yankees need one more base runner to get the tying run to the plate. Dan Warthen will come out to talk before Ellsbury comes to bat. Meanwhile, the Yankees will use a pinch runner. This will be Jose Pirela batting, running for A-Rod. So Pirela, the pinch runner. Ellsbury will get his second turn at bat. He came up as a pinch hitter in the 7th and flied out, stayed in the game in center field. Scouting reports exchanged all around. This has been just a dreadful time for Ellsbury, who snapped an 0 for 25 stretch with a couple of hits on Wednesday for the Yankees. Ackley at second. Pirella, the pinch runner, at first with 1 out. Brett Gardner on deck. And Ellsbury takes a fastball strike.
Slight shade in the outfield to the opposite field. Cespedes in normal position. Usually you see a no doubles here.
Oh, 1 to Ellsbury. Back to Familia. Caroms off his leg, goes into foul ground, and now the bases are loaded. Ellsbury with the sharp comebacker, and Familia couldn't get the glove down. The infield single loads the bases and brings the tying run to bat.
And the very dangerous Brett Gardner. Nice hitting by Ellsbury. Oh, just got his glove under it. It was there. Did it hit his knee, Ron?
I think he missed it with his glove. There's no way it would hit his glove.
I think it hit his knee.
And then go that far.
It hit his knee.
Definitely hit his leg, because otherwise it wouldn't have carried him nearly as far as it did. Ray Ramirez and Terry Collins out to make sure he's okay. He'll throw a warm-up pitch to make sure. So 2 hits and a walk in the inning against Familia in a non-save situation, and now the Yankees have a chance. Says he's fine.
Need a double play.
Well, he'll face a very tough man to double up in Gardner.
Oh my goodness, look at the Lagares in center field. Very shallow.
Gardner's got 16 home runs this year, and he has 2 grand slams in his career, including 1 last year against Bartolo Colon.
Back it up, guys, in that outfield.
I mean, that's the tying run at the plate. You got to be playing some kind of no doubles, don't you?
Granderson's fine now. Lagares is okay. Could go a little deeper.
Gardner 1 for 3 and a walk tonight. Bases loaded, 1 out. And he takes a little high. Ball 1. A pinch hit double by Ackley when he was behind in the count. A walk to A-Rod after he was behind in the count. And then Ellsbury with the comebacker off Familia's knee for an infield hit to load the bases. And now he's behind on Gardner 2-0. There's no warm-up action in the Mets bullpen, although that may change in a moment.
You know, when you get hit on the knee like that, it might feel fine for 30 seconds, a minute, minute and a half, and after that, that thing starts to swell up. Those 2 pitchers not even close.
It was his left knee, his landing leg. Dom Betances up in the Yankee bullpen.
Got to look middle in here. 2-0. Try to tie ball game up.
2-0 to Gardner, and he takes a strike. 2-1.
Not guarding the line, David Wright, nor Lucas Duda.
Gardner the tying run at the plate in the 5-1 game. 2-1 from Familia. And he got the inside corner, 2-2.
The fastball came back just enough to catch that inside corner. Nice frame by d'Arnaud.
Now it's 2-2 to Brett Gardner. Fly ball left field. Cespedes has it measured. Ackley will stay put at third. 2 out. One more out to get for Familia. Chase Headley coming up.
Boy, what a weapon that is, Cespedes' arm.
Headley is one of the few Yankees who has faced Familia before. He has 2 at-bats against him with 1 hit. Headley with 11 home runs this year. Once at 31 as a Padre. Bases loaded, 2 out, top of the 9th.
Keep the ball away. Got a veteran hitter here. He might look middle in, try to tie the ball game up. Let him try to hit that sinker.
Remember, he likes the ball down, though, Keith. Ball up is his issue.
Mets playing the outfield as deep as they can play in center and in right against Headley. There's a fastball for a strike from Familia. Cespedes a little less deep and left. Headley takes a cut. 0-2.
Nice splitter.
And now the Yankees are down to their final strike.
Well, Headley took the first pitch fastball, and then he may not get another one.
Oh, and 2 to Chase Headley. He struck him out, and the ball game is over. Well, it wasn't a save, but Jeurys Familia worked as hard as he would in a save opportunity. Steven Matz goes 6 innings for his 4th win without a loss. The Mets hit 3 home runs, and they beat the Yankees in the opener of this Subway Series 5-1.
And a big ball game for the Mets. The win now drops their magic number to 8. No matter what, they're in the 10th inning in Washington, tied. 3 home runs by the Mets. Uribe with the big blast, the 2-run shot, the pinch hit shot in the 7th that made it a 4-1 ball game.
And Steven Matz, who didn't have maybe his best stuff, weathered through 6 good innings, only giving up a run. The bullpen got through 3 innings of work without Tyler Clippard, who wasn't available this evening.
Mets who were shut out by Masahiro Tanaka here at Citi Field last year. Tonight hit 2 home runs against Tanaka, and that was enough to beat him. As the Mets even up the season series with the Yankees, reduced their magic number to 8 as they beat the Yankees 5-1. The game summary brought to you by Verizon Fios. Now there's a totally new way to customize your TV only from Verizon Fios. Mets through 5 big league starts, 4-0, 1.80 as Duda, Murphy, and Uribe all go deep, and the Mets move ever closer to that National League East title with a 5-1 win over the Yankees. Jeurys Familia using his favorite new weapon to finish off the Yankees tonight and work around 9th inning trouble. Mets win at 5-1. More from Citi Field in just a moment.